Dave squinted at the horizon, his old fishing boat bobbing lazily with the waves. Another day, another disappointing catch, he muttered, tossing a half-hearted glance at his empty cooler. His pet parrot, Salty, perched on the edge of the boat, let out a piercing squawk.
Yeah.
Rub it in, you feathered freeloader, Dave grumbled, casting his line. Salty flapped his wings, tilting his head. Big one. Big one, the bird screeched. Dave rolled his eyes. I wish, buddy. All I'm catching today is disappointment and a sunburn. He leaned back in his seat, letting the rod rest against the railing. A sudden, violent tug nearly yanked the pole out of his hand. Whoa! Dave exclaimed, gripping it with both hands as the line whirred. Now that's what I'm talking about. Salty hopped up and down, screeching, hooker. Hooker. Not the time, Salty. Dave growled, muscles straining as he reeled in his mysterious catch. Whatever it was heavy. Finally, the line broke the surface. Dave's jaw dropped. Tangled in his fishing line was a glowing figure, a woman? No, something else. She shimmered, her body sleek and alien, her skin faintly luminescent like the surface of a pearl. The figure blinked, her large, iridescent eyes locking onto his. Then she spoke, her voice musical and oddly formal. You have summoned me, anchor-hearted one. I am Tyala, Princess of Nereos. Dave stared. Okay, first of all, what? Second, are you gonna pay for all the beer I spit out when you popped up like that? Tyala tilted her head, her translucent fins fluttering slightly. I do not understand. Is this not the sacred initiation of your kind? Lady, I'm just out here trying to catch dinner, not, whatever this is, he said, gesturing vaguely at her glowing form. You do not comprehend the gravity of this moment, she replied, a note of indignation creeping into her voice. By retrieving the sacred pearl, you have fulfilled an ancient prophecy. You are destined to save my kingdom. Dave let out a bark of laughter. Me? Save your kingdom? Listen, you've got the wrong guy. I'm a fisherman, not a, whatever this is. Tyala stepped closer, her expression one of grave determination. You are chosen. There is no mistake. Well, I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree. This situation is sinking fast, Dave muttered. Tyala gasped, her eyes widening. We are sinking. She waved her hand, and a shimmering bubble enveloped the boat. Whoa. It's just an expression. Dave yelled. Tyala frowned, clearly confused. Expressions in your tongue are perplexing. Dave pinched the bridge of his nose.
Yeah.
Well, try growing up with my ex-wife. You'll get used to it. Salty squawked, sinker. Sinker. Not helping, Salty, Dave muttered. Tyala reached out, her delicate hand brushing the side of the boat. Your vessel is primitive but intriguing. Is it powered by combustion, as your kind often employs? Dave raised an eyebrow. You mean my outboard motor?
Yeah.
Sure, let's go with that. Her gaze turned earnest. Your technology is charming in its simplicity. Perhaps there is more to your species than I anticipated.
Yeah.
We're full of surprises, Dave replied dryly. Now, if you don't mind, can we get back to the part where I don't have to save your kingdom? Tyala's expression softened. Do not fear. I will guide you. Together, we shall prevail. Dave sighed. Lady, you're glowing, you're royal, and apparently you're in charge of some underwater empire. But I'm just a guy with a fishing rod and a bird that screams hooker. You sure I'm the right man for this job? Tyala smiled, a faint blush tinting her cheeks. I have no doubt. Your wit and courage will carry us through. Dave snorted.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see how far my wit gets us. As Tyala's glow brightened, the sea around them shimmered, and Salty squawked louder. Dave tightened his grip on the railing, muttering, this better not end with me regretting everything. Dave leaned back in the shimmering bubble surrounding his boat, watching in disbelief as the ocean transformed before his eyes. The water, no longer murky, sparkled with streaks of light, revealing a path leading into the deep. Tyala floated beside him, her fins catching the glow like the sails of an otherworldly ship. "So, this kingdom of yours," Dave said, trying to mask his unease. "What's the deal? You guys throw pearls around and call it a day?" Tyala turned to him, her tone solemn. "Nereos is a marvel of unity and innovation, yet it is fragile. The sacred pearl you retrieved powers our great city. Without it, our kingdom falters." Dave raised an eyebrow. "So, I snagged your battery? Great. Let me guess, you don't have spares." "It is irreplaceable," she replied, her voice tinged with frustration. "The prophecy states that only an outsider with an anchor heart can restore balance." Dave smirked. "Anchor heart, huh? Sounds like a fancy way of saying, stubborn guy with bad luck." "Your resilience is precisely what we need," Tyala said, her sincerity catching him off guard. "You underestimate your worth." "Lady, I've been underestimated my whole life," Dave replied. "Doesn't mean I'm cut out to be some alien kingdom's handyman." Before Tyala could respond, the bubble descended into a dazzling underwater city. Towering structures of bioluminescent coral rose around them, connected by shimmering bridges and tunnels. Schools of glowing fish darted between buildings, and aquatic creatures worked alongside humanoid aliens in a seamless dance of life. "Whoa," Dave muttered, momentarily awed. "Looks like Atlantis got a tech upgrade." Tyala's pride was evident as she gestured toward the bustling city. "This is Nereos, the heart of our civilization. Every light, every breath, depends on the sacred pearl." As they approached a grand hall, Dave noticed curious glances from the locals. Their whispers, though indecipherable, were clearly about him. "Let me guess," Dave said, "they're not used to seeing a guy like me." "You are an enigma," Tyala admitted. "Our people are skeptical of surface dwellers. Many believe your kind to be destructive and selfish." Dave let out a dry laugh. "Can't argue with that. We've done our share of messing things up topside." Tyala's expression softened. "But you also possess ingenuity and tenacity. Traits that can inspire change." They entered the grand hall, where a council of regal-looking aliens awaited. Tyala introduced Dave as the anchor-hearted one, their savior. The room erupted in a mix of cheers and protests. "Hold up," Dave said, raising a hand. "I didn't sign up for this. I'm just here because someone didn't put a do not touch sign on their magic pearl." The council members exchanged confused glances, and Tyala stepped in to explain. "His humor is unconventional, but his heart is true." "True might be a stretch," Dave muttered under his breath. A stern counselor addressed him. "Surface dweller, do you understand the gravity of your actions? Our fate rests in your hands." "No pressure, huh?" Dave quipped. "Look, I'm not exactly hero material, but if it gets me out of here faster, I'll help." Tyala clasped her hands together. "Thank you, Dave. Your assistance will not be forgotten."
Yeah.
"Sure," Dave said, glancing around. "So, what's the plan? Do I swing a sword, push a button, or just charm everyone with my sparkling personality?" The council members looked baffled, and Tyala stifled a laugh. "We'll guide you, anchor-hearted one. Trust in us, as we trust in you." Dave sighed, crossing his arms. "Fine. But if this ends with me drowning or glowing in the dark, I'm holding you responsible." The council led Dave and Tyala through the heart of the city, where holographic maps projected the kingdom's most pressing issues. The sacred pearl, now a central artifact in their city, sat in a pedestal, its glow flickering weakly. Tyala stepped up to it, her face grim. "This is the source of all our power. Without its full energy, our cities will crumble." Dave studied the pearl, unimpressed by its glowing sheen. "So, it's a fancy nightlight that powers everything? You guys sure know how to make things look important." Tyala gave him a long look. "You mock what you do not understand. I'm just saying, I've seen power strips that are more dependable than this thing, Dave shot back. The council murmured, their alien expressions hard to read. One of the members, a tall, thin being with elongated eyes, spoke up. The prophecy does not mention power strips. It mentions, a heart, your heart, Dave. Right, sure. My heart, the thing that's supposed to fix your whole kingdom, Dave said sarcastically, hands on his hips. You sure you don't need a few more wires or maybe a couple of backup generators? Tayala sighed, rubbing her temples. We've tried that. Our technology is beyond repair. Only the prophecy can guide us now. Which, let me guess, means I'm the chosen one and have to save the day, huh? Dave groaned. Yes, Tayala said with surprising certainty. Dave's face twisted in mock horror. Great. What's next? Some quest where I have to fight a giant squid or solve your kingdom's tax problems? Another council member, a round, orange-skinned alien, leaned forward. The prophecy speaks of an outsider who can bring balance. You may not be aware of it, but your actions thus far have set things in motion. The sacred pearl is waiting for you. Right, Dave muttered. I'm sure it is, just like every unpaid bill I've got at home. So, where do I stick my keycard to unlock this thing? Tayala's patience was wearing thin, but she held it together. You must connect your heart with the pearl. Only then can you restore its energy. Great, so I'm supposed to go full heart-to-heart with a glowing rock? Dave asked, skeptical. Not a rock. A living entity, Tayala corrected him. The pearl is part of Nerio's essence. It will respond to your intent.
Yeah.
Because that totally makes sense, Dave replied dryly. Look, lady, I'm not sure how you got the idea that I'm some mystical heart-fueled superhero, but I'm about as connected to a magical gem as I am to a toaster. Tayala's lips twitched in what could have been a smile. Then perhaps you need to try a more direct approach. Like what? Do I sing to it? Write it a love letter? Dave shot back. No, Tayala replied seriously. You must offer something of great personal value, something that will allow the pearl to trust you. Dave paused. Great. You're asking for some kind of emotional confession, aren't you? Tayala's expression softened. In a sense. But it is not just about your emotions. It is about understanding what you are willing to sacrifice for others. Sacrifice? Dave repeated, his voice rising. Lady, I'm just a guy who wanted to fish and have a couple of beers. Sacrificing things isn't exactly my thing. Tayala gently placed a hand on his arm. Everyone has something they can give, Dave. It's about more than just what you think you have. It's about who you are. Dave groaned. If I have to start writing a diary about my feelings, I'm out. I'm not some mystical chosen one type. I'm just here for the fish and the occasional tall tale. The council was silent as Dave turned away, muttering under his breath. Look, I get it. You need me to connect with some alien magic and save your world. But I'm not sure what you want from me. Tayala stepped closer, lowering her voice. You don't have to understand it all, Dave. But if you don't try, we lose everything. Dave stood still, his mind racing. He wasn't used to this. He wasn't a hero. Hell, he wasn't even good at relationships. But something in her voice made him pause. All right, fine, he muttered. Let's give it a shot. But I'm not promising anything. Tayala nodded, and without another word, they moved to the central chamber where the sacred pearl waited. Dave stood before the pedestal, the glowing pearl pulsating like a heartbeat. He exhaled sharply and placed his hand on it, his palm warm against the cool, smooth surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, an electric shock of energy surged through his arm, and Dave gasped, his body trembling. The council stood back in awe as the pearl's glow brightened, slowly pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. Tayala's voice echoed softly. You've done it, Dave. You've connected. Dave, still reeling from the surge of energy, managed a weak smile.
Yeah,
Well, that was something. It's like my heart just got a power-up. The pearl's light stabilized, and the energy seemed to spread through the room, filling the air with a palpable hum. The kingdom, once on the brink of collapse, seemed to sigh in relief as the sacred pearl regained its strength. Dave wiped his forehead. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see that coming. You sure I'm not just high from whatever that was? Tyala smiled. No, Dave. You truly are the anchor-hearted one. Our kingdom owes you everything. Great, Dave muttered. Just don't tell anyone I'm the one who almost drowned on the first day. Tyala chuckled, the first real laugh he'd heard from her. It's a story we will all share. And you will always be welcome in Nereos. Dave's gaze shifted, a little unsure.
Yeah.
Well, I might just come back. For the fish. Dave leaned against the edge of the pedestal, watching as the glow from the sacred pearl intensified. The hum of energy filled the air, and for a fleeting moment, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he'd done something worthwhile. The council members whispered excitedly amongst themselves, their earlier skepticism replaced with admiration. Tyala stood beside him, her expression more serene than it had been since they first met. You did it, Dave. The energy is flowing again. Nereos is saved. He scratched his head, still not quite understanding how he'd ended up in this situation. Saved, huh? I still can't believe I just slapped my hand on a glowing rock and fixed your whole kingdom. What happened to your whole chosen one thing? Tyala smiled gently. You were always the one. It wasn't about fate, it was about the choice you made when you touched the pearl. You didn't just fix the kingdom. You fixed yourself. Dave blinked, confused. Fixed myself? Lady, I'm not broken. I'm just here to fish and get away from my problems. Sometimes, it's the simplest of acts that make the biggest impact, Tyala said, her voice almost soothing. You may not see it now, but your actions have already inspired more than you know. Great, Dave muttered. Now I'm some kind of motivational speaker for the underwater crowd. As Tyala spoke with the council, Dave wandered around the chamber, his thoughts a jumbled mess. He had no idea what to make of all this. Part of him wanted to shrug it off, he hadn't asked to be part of some ancient prophecy, but another part of him couldn't deny the fact that he had done something significant. So, what now? Dave asked, turning back to Tyala as she approached him. There's still much to do, Tyala replied. But for now, we celebrate. Nereos owes you its future. Dave raised an eyebrow. Celebrate? I thought the whole kingdom was about to go underwater, and now you want a party? Why not? Tyala's lips curved into a smile. You've earned it. Dave snorted. If by earned it, you mean accidentally saving the day and somehow becoming the most unlikely hero, sure. But I'm not staying for a toga party or whatever you call it. The council members had gathered now, their faces bright with relief and gratitude. One of them, the orange-skinned alien, stepped forward, holding what appeared to be a ceremonial dagger. Dave's eyes narrowed. Now, hold on, he said, raising his hands defensively. I didn't sign up for sacrifices or some weird alien tradition. The council member chuckled. No sacrifice, no ritual. But we do wish to honor you in the only way we know how.
Yeah.
And that involves. Dave trailed off, glancing at Tyala, who had her hand over her mouth, trying not to laugh. Actually, Tyala spoke up, it's a celebration of your contribution. You will be granted a title in Nereos, as a hero, as a friend. A title? Dave looked skeptical. Like, the guy who almost drowned but saved the world title? Precisely, Tyala said with a grin. Dave rolled his eyes. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds prestigious. The council placed a golden band around Dave's wrist, the inscription written in an ancient script he couldn't read. Tyala smiled proudly at him as they made the gesture official. From now on, Tyala announced, you will be known as the Anchor-Hearted. A title of honor, one that represents the strength you showed when you stepped into the unknown. Dave stared at the band for a moment, still not sure how to process it. So, what now? Do I get a lifetime supply of your glowing fish or something? Tayala laughed. We will provide for you. You are welcome here at any time, Dave. But I understand if you wish to return to your world.
Yeah.
Dave said with a wistful sigh. As much as I'd love to stay and bask in the glory of my completely accidental heroism, I think I'll stick to the fishing boat. This whole glowing pearl thing is a little too much for me. Understandable, Tayala said, nodding. But know that you have friends here. If ever you change your mind, Nerios will be waiting. Right, Dave said, feeling the weight of the band on his wrist. I'll keep that in mind, along with the fact that I've just been inducted into some weird underwater cult. How do I explain this to my buddies back home? Tayala tilted her head, her eyes narrowing in thought. You could always tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Sure, Dave snorted. I can already see the looks on their faces. So, you went fishing, and now you're some kind of royal hero who saved an entire alien kingdom.
Yeah.
They'll believe that. Well, perhaps you will have a better story than you expect. One that will make even your old fishing buddies envious. Maybe. Dave scratched the back of his neck. I don't know about that, though. I'm not exactly the shining hero type. You're more of a hero than you think, Dave, Tayala said softly. And it's not about titles or grand gestures. It's about the small things we do that change the world. Dave looked at her, half amused. That's deep. You sure you're not just talking about how much I've already complained about this whole thing? Tayala chuckled. Maybe a little. All right, well, if this is my big send-off, I'm gonna need a drink first. You guys got beer around here? Tayala raised an eyebrow. Beer?
Yeah.
Dave replied, smiling, you know, the thing that makes all this weirdness more bearable. Tayala smiled again, her eyes softening. If it helps, then we'll find you something different. Now we're talking, Dave said, giving her a thumbs up. As he stepped away from the pedestal, the golden band on his wrist glimmering in the light, he couldn't help but feel like maybe, just maybe, he'd done something important after all. He wasn't a hero. Not in the traditional sense. But maybe, just maybe, he had found something better. A place where, for the first time in a long while, he felt like he belonged.